Listen, folks, it ain't easy being a content creator. You have to balance expertise, curiosity, quality, and also strive to make relevant content for your audience, but also write about stuff that you actually care about. When people write stuff just for engagement, it's really obvious. Personally, I see my podcast interviews as a way to learn and share new perspectives. There's so much out there, and sitting down for an hour with like a specific expert or a really interesting guest can really be like a transformative experience. And every once in a while, there's an interview that really pops, and that's today. Eric Whiteback is wise beyond his years. Although just a few years out of college, he's already made a name for himself across multiple social channels as the Collectibles Guru and was once even the content manager for Golden Auctions. He is what I consider to be an expert in various collectible markets, notably sports cards, ticket stubs, sealed video games, and now comics and NFTs, although he's still kind of a beginner for those last two. The ticket conversation that I had with him totally blew my mind. There is a market, or rather, the potential for a market for very rare ticket stubs, such as a ticket from the Malice at the Palace, a ticket from famous athlete debuts or famous plays like the Derek Jeter throw, a ticket from the original Titanic, like a ticket stub from somebody who was on the actual Titanic, or even a ticket from the Cincinnati Zoo the day that Harambe the gorilla was shot. And then after that, we transition into the video game discussion where he makes his pitch to me as to why sealed classic games could be the next great collectibles market. And he makes a compelling case. After all, video games have far more players globally than cards have collectors. And last, we cover other obscure memorabilia like president's hair, famous dentures, and serial killer items. Honestly, this was such an awesome interview. And there's even a little surprise at the end where I take him through items that I have here in my studio, in my office, and we play that instead of Would You Rather. I ask him kind of like an Antiques Roadshow, how much would these things be worth? How much would you pay for them? And honestly, his analysis, even though it's totally unexpected, is quite good. So listen to my interview with Eric Whiteback, the Collectibles Guru. What's up, everyone? It's LG Doucette, and you're listening to The First Mint, a podcast about Web3, business, and sports. Before we get to the show, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Evaluate.xyz, a safe and easy way to meet other NFT collectors, negotiate deals, and swap your moments live. Looking to expand your Top Shot, All Day, and Strike collection without spending your Dapper balance? With Evaluate, you can pair up with trading partners in seconds and swap your existing moments for new ones in secure trading lobbies. The fastest and easiest way to trade NFTs. Visit Evaluate.xyz today to start swapping moments with other collectors. Nothing on today's show should be considered financial or trading advice of any kind. Please do your own thorough research and make your own trading decisions. This is not advice. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest for you today on The First Mint, Eric Whiteback. My man, a guy, I just didn't even know who you were like a couple months ago. And now it's like you're the only thing on Twitter. And then I went on Instagram and you were there too. You're literally everywhere. Dude, I was just telling you before we started recording, that is from one content creator to another. I absolutely admire your ability to just rocket across all these channels all at the same time, just blast away. Dude, how's it going?
Well, that's quite the intro there, man. Yeah, everything's good. It's Twitter was I sort of joke like one of my last Infinity Stones, and now honestly, quickly becoming one of my favorite platforms. So, yeah, really an awesome place, and it seems like the place too where like most of the collectors are, and most of the people who are critically thinking are, and all that stuff. So, yeah, for me, Twitter's definitely a fun one. But is that where you first saw me?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Man. You came, I think, when like So Rare, when you did the partnership with So Rare, I think, right? They sponsored you. Yeah,
yep.
They did that, and then I think you were talking about just kind of NFTs in general, and anything collectibles is something that I've been learning a lot about more over the last couple of years, just being in the NFT community and kind of coming at it the other direction because I hadn't really collected anything in years. So, but yeah, admire your drive and. Man, we have so much to talk about because I want to ask you about comic books.
We'll get into all of it.
Got into that. There's so much
excited.
to say.
Yeah, quite excited.
So I actually love the analogy you already used about the Infinity Gauntlet. What else are the stones? What are the other stones that you have that you consider like you're like nailing this channel and content?
TikTok for sure. Pretty big following there. Instagram has a pretty sizable following. YouTube is one that I'm just starting to run up as well. I hadn't done
Right.
anything there previously, and now that they allow you to do those little 9 by 16 vertical videos, I
Shorts.
can just sort of like, hey, look, my TikTok video, I'll post it over there too, and oh, great, now it's
Yeah.
10, 12,000 followers, and we'll see if we can keep that
Nice.
trajectory going there. Yeah.
How do you determine what you're going after? Because from what I understand is like YouTube is like, all right, everyone's doing by 9 by 16, so let's go and like TikTok might get banned in the US, so let's get in there right now, start competing and start getting people on mobile. And they are clearly like driving people to those short videos because they're just
Yep.
popping off,
Yep.
right?
Totally.
Is that how do you kind of gauge it? Like, do you determine like I want to nail this platform because I'm a fan of the platform, or do you just like read blogs and be like, all right, everyone's starting to engage this way on Twitter, let's go play on Twitter? How do you kind of determine that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I certainly started pretty predominantly on Instagram and was very hesitant to
Yeah,
go anywhere else. But I
right.
think, when you're building a social media platform, particularly if you're only on one real social media network, it feels like a little bit of a house of cards, right? Like the second something
Yeah.
happens to that social media network, like if you only have a following there, then you're sort of toast, right? I hate to say it that way, but that seems to be the reality of it from what I can tell. And I don't know if you had a big MySpace following back in the day or a big Vine following, right? Like you had to convert that somewhere else, or else right now you're not able to monetize off the following that you have, right?
Did you have a
So
Vine following? Did you have a Vine following
no,
back
no,
in the
no, I
day?
didn't. I was not.
Oh,
I was not that much of an OG. No.
okay.
But yeah, I started on Instagram and sort of just was posting there for fun, right? Like I did not set out to be an influencer when I started posting. It was
Right.
I was into this brand called Supreme. Some people will have heard
Yeah,
of it, and it just felt to me
of
like it was
course.
a brand that had a real cult following. And interestingly enough, a brand with a cult following that no one was making content around whatsoever at the time. And even the brand itself wasn't making content because they were trying to act like sort of too cool for school, right? Like
Right.
they didn't want to put themselves out there and do any of that stuff. So I was like, hey, when the Supreme sled comes out, everyone puts it in their closet, keeps it in the plastic and gets it out of the sunlight. I'm like, what if I just go like ride it down the mountain, right? Like, wouldn't it be cool to actually
Yeah.
use some of these interesting Supreme items for their intended purposes? And so I started doing that, and quickly it was like 10, 20, 30, 50,000 followers, and was making just enough money by the time I graduated college where I was like, okay, I'm going to like try this full time and see where it goes. And
Dude,
then
that's awesome, man.
and then TikTok took off pretty fast. I was lucky to be an early adopter there, so I had some real significant growth in the beginning.
Right.
And then as I got really burnt out on Supreme. Like I just kind of like Supreme's cool. I still like it. I still enjoy it. I still buy
Yeah.
pieces from time to time. But how many like red box logos or like sneakers can you look at before you're just like, oh my gosh, this is too much. And
Yeah.
it's a very sort of showy world too, which I didn't particularly like. I think collectibles is maybe a little bit different. Collectibles, you're sort of showing off a passion, I feel like. And fashion, it's, a lot of the things that you're buying are really bad investments. Like the second you put a pair of sneakers on your feet, they're worth 50% of what you paid for them or less, right?
It's true. It's true.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I got really burnt out, and my girlfriend at the time, now my fiance, she came to me. She's like, "Hey, you need a hobby." I'm like, "Hobby? I know that word, right? Like, I've been in sports cards for a long, long time. Let me sort of get back into that and see how that goes." And so, that's what I did. And then I actually was like trying to build a company to compete with Topps and Panini. Was really interested in making my own sports card manufacturer.
Make your own IP.
Had
Yeah.
started to get really tied into the venture capital world. Had a number of people who had dedicated, names that you would know who had dedicated money and were ready to write checks. And then got introduced to the people at Golden Auctions. And
Yeah.
they were interested in potentially investing and doing it as R&D off their balance sheet. So I get introduced to Ross Hoffman at Golden Auctions, and I sort of give him the whole spiel. And he's like, "Hey, this is really cool. We're not in a place to really do it, but what would it take to get you here?" And for the longest time, I was like, "No, I don't really want to do it. I don't really want to do it. I don't really want to do it." And eventually, after I don't know, a month or two of back and forth, he was like, they made an offer that I was like, you know what, I should do this, right? And so I went there and I ran Golden Auctions social media for a little over a year.
Got it.
And I was there from February 2021 to May 2022. And then when I left in May 2022, it was with the intention of getting back into creating content on my own and realizing that, hey, I think there's some definite space here for someone to talk about these things, and I don't know that anyone's really talking about them in the way that at least I think about them.
Right.
And so Twitter felt like a real opportunity to do that as well, for sure. Twitter's one of those things like
Yeah.
you have an interesting idea, you can get it from idea to content in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
These other platforms take quite a bit longer, and it was kind of cool too. Like Twitter was the platform I didn't really have a following, so I could sort of make who I wanted to be there. Whereas some of these other platforms, it's like they know me for Supreme and sneakers, and so like I have to tie that in here and there a little bit more prominently. But yeah, so I came back and I left Golden in May. I probably started doing content on my own late June, early July.
Right.
And then, the rest is history. Now we're here.
Damn, dude. Yeah, there you go. And now you are a guest on podcasts. I saw you were on Tandy's stream the other day too. It was just like now
Yeah.
you are a guest because you become such a prolific collectible content creator. Now people are making podcasts about you. How's that
Yeah.
feel?
Yeah, it's really cool. I
That's
mean,
cool, right? No, that's pretty sweet.
I certainly got to do some really cool pods and stuff too in the
Yeah,
Supreme and streetwear world.
yeah,
But it's really fun now when people bring me on. They're like, "Oh, you did Supreme?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I want you to think, right?" Like that's,
yeah.
it's cool. I
You want to
appreciate
be
like
detached.
what that did for me,
Yeah.
and I don't know that I want to be 100% attached, but like, it's cool that people are finding me for other things and other ideas now.
Right. Yeah. Of course, man. I have a lot of different questions about that whole process. Um, I guess mainly, what is your relationship like with the companies that you collect from? And you like maybe actually, you know what? Maybe you could take a step back before answering that. Tell us about all the different stuff that you cover, because that's actually where I've been really blown away. Is that at first, like you were talking, you came on the feed, we were talking about some NFTs, and I was like, okay, you're NFTs, you're in our world. Who's this guy, right? And then I start following you, and then you're talking about video games, you're talking about cards, you're doing really cool giveaways. We come on stream right now, you have a bunch of like sealed freaking GameCube games and shit like that. You know what I mean? And now you're posting about comics, which is kind of like where I like had thousands when I was a kid. Again, we'll talk
Yep.
about that
Yep.
later. How do you kind of catalog your interests there? Like if I'm new to Eric, to Collectibles Guru, what am I coming to you for?
Yeah, I mean, I think you sort of said it in one way, is like collectibles broadly, right? I
Yeah.
want to, there will certainly be categories that I'm more expert in than other categories. But, at the end of the day, I want to at least have some beginner knowledge of all these important collectible categories. And,
Yeah.
it's cards, it's comics, it's video games, it's action
Sure.
figures, as you see some behind me, it's NFTs, it's digital collectibles in general, it's art. I'd love it to be numismatics and coins and paper money and all that stuff, right? Like I even have covered like fossils and interesting finds and auction sales.
Fossils.
And yeah, so I think there's like 100 ways to sort of slice it, but I do think
Yeah.
that I would certainly say that one of the things that I'm passionate about is seeing what other communities are passionate about, right? And I see like
Right.
there's this really big, awesome comic community. I'm like, okay, this is interesting, right? Like I see these big record prices, and I'm like, I would love to learn more about this, because obviously there's some people that really, really love this, and it's really important to them. So there must be some really cool elements of that, right? And so, I never really collected comics. I'm not really a big superhero guy,
Right.
quite candidly. And I've seen several of the movies, but like, and I'm not like, going to the midnight release or anything. And so, just trying to like learn that and understand it all, and really enamored by, and I think some of it actually came from the Supreme world, right? Like Supreme, for all the things that they've done wrong in the last 5 years, they did not sort of by chance land in the situation that they were in. They were very intentional in the way that they handled everything and did everything. And even, I talked about how they didn't really make content, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it looked like if you just looked at them from the outside, it looked like they weren't trying at anything. But
Right.
ironically, what they were doing was trying really hard to make it look that way.
That's the brand.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so they
That's
they
the
were
brand.
and they were intentionally undersupplying to demand, and I think they were sort of the pioneers of that.
Right.
And so all of these things really interest me, in just in terms of these collectible companies and the way that they do things and the different learnings from each one and the way they overlap. And certainly feel like there are a lot of similarities between collectible categories, more than people might realize. And I've found too that people that collect one thing also tend to generally be enamored by big collectible news in other categories too. So
Dude,
it all works out.
absolutely, man. Dude, right on. Tell us how you landed in the NFT space.
Truthfully, I'd say similar to comics, right? Like
Yeah.
the way anyone landed in the NFT space, saw other people talking about NFTs, and just saw like, okay, geez, like what, this sold for $22 million? Like this is worth looking at and thinking about, and trying to learn what's going on here, right? And
Yeah.
like, I'm certainly far from expert in the NFT space, but yeah, that's totally how I landed in it, is just seeing other people talk about it, and then going out on my own and trying to learn a few things and understand a few things. And certainly that's one of the categories I'm still beginner in, but it's one that's like, look, I see and understand the benefits of digital. Like I that part is the part that I get and I really
Yeah.
understand. Particularly having dealt in physical for so long, like there's so many things where I'm like, yep, that's way nicer and way cleaner to do digitally.
Yeah.
And so, I would say too, there certainly are benefits of physical over digital. But
Yeah.
I think there's benefits each way. But I will say, like, even as I feel like a beginner in the sort of digital collectible space, I would say I feel like I have a pretty strong grasp on what the benefits of it are.
Right. Yeah. We had like when we started the show 2 years ago and we started covering Top Shot and then like a couple weeks later, we were kind of right place, right time. I had like you don't understand, like hundreds of people message me being like, I'm a card collector and this like I'm selling every card I have because of this. Like it's just like as soon as they process like and that was just for like things like Top Shot and So Rare and like actual collectible type stuff. Like in terms of like sports collectibles, not the rest of the kind of most of the rest of the NFT scene didn't even exist yet. There was no apes, there's none of that shit. There was just like Sandbox Land and punks were around, but it wasn't that big of a thing. And they were like this immediately they're like this is the future. Like I don't know what I'm doing with this cardboard because this makes so much more sense. I don't need to grade it. I have the information online. It's on chain. Like that's the thing. How do you feel about that right now? Because I feel like that's obviously kind of now it's either split into two camps and also people obviously cross over quite a lot. What's your kind of current vibe of physical collectibles? And it doesn't have to stick to sports. It can be kind of everything, but strictly speaking, collectibles versus like the NFT space. Are they playing nice, or is one going to evolve into the other, or is it just like NFT is that tidal wave that's coming that is going to wash everything away?
Yeah, those are all really great questions. And I'll start by like taking a little bit of a step back and talking about one
Sure.
of the things that I've been like frustrated by, which is I have seen quite a few times in both directions. I will say probably more in the direction of physical people talking about digital people, but it's just like there is this insane like tribalism of people like they see someone post their NFT purchase and they like start hating on them. Like, dude, if someone enjoys something, like let them
Yeah.
enjoy it, right? Like even if it's even if they end up losing money on it, like so be it. Like let people enjoy it and have a good time and show off the things that they purchased and like have a good time with community. Like let that happen. And so like
Yeah.
the thing that I see that's happening, and it does happen in both directions, is I see like people who collect physical hating on people who collect digital and vice
Right.
versa. And it seems like it's this attempt where like digital people view physical as a threat and vice versa, and they view it as this very finite pie, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is like when you hate on someone who collects something digitally, like what they do? They dig their heels in and they buy more digital, right? Like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and vice versa. Same if you hate on someone who collects physical. And so it's like the right response if you're really worried about your bags and where your money is, even outside of like what is just morally the good right thing to do, which is like should be priority number one, but clearly it's not. So like we talk about like even like strategically what's the best thing to do. It's like be nice to people, like be welcoming to people, take interest in things, don't hate on what people collect, right? Like because if you go and hate on some guy who's posting his digital purchase for $28,000 who clearly has disposable income to buy other collectibles, then like if he sees cards or some other physical collectible as this exclusionary group that hates on what he does, then you'll probably never go and buy a physical collectible, right? And so like it's sort of ironically like the best thing to do is be like, even if you don't understand, just be like either just ignore it or be like, oh, this is cool, but not for me, right? Like there's 100 ways to like sort of handle that. And then I'll say, so that's certainly like a frustration. I just wish there was way less infighting. Like we're all collectors, like we're all on the same team. Like let's get that clear, like first and foremost. Outside of that, I would say, I don't think either one of these will ever exist by itself. There will always be physical collectors and there will always be digital collectors from this point forward. I can't fathom a situation in which one of the two goes away. What I more think will happen, if you made me guess, and this will take some time as the tech and all the companies around this innovate and figure things out and build products, I expect them to become much more intertwined than separated. I expect it to be the situation where a lot of physical collectors have their items in vaults, they're digitized, they're turned into NFTs. Those NFTs are then tradable on a multiplicity of marketplaces and can be listed in many places at the same time and can be transacted on instantaneously. And you don't have to worry about non-paying buyers or shipping time or shipping scams or any of that stuff, right? And so, like, I think when you have the digital that is backed by the physical. That seems like a win in both worlds. And I sort of expect that we will continue to see more and more of that. And again, I don't think that's going to mean the only physical goes away or the only digital goes away, but more than I think they're going to separate, I think they're going to intertwine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say as well, because I obviously want to talk about myself a lot on the show instead of you, but this has brought me back to collecting physical stuff. Having NFTs and specifically NFTs sending me physical things. I'm like, like I've started to create like a little mantle over here, gonna eventually work on the background and everything, but it's just like, I have so much stuff now. Right. And it's brought me back to that world. So if anything, it's actually, it's actually working in the way that the physical people want it to.
Yeah.
That it's like, I'm actually being sucked back to physicals that way. Tell us, what do your NFTs look like? What kind of NFTs you got?
Yeah, I mean, very candidly, I've got two that I'm at right now, and they're going to be like I'm going to say them, and you're going to be like, oh, so I do some of the so rare stuff for sure,
Cool.
playing around in there. Yep, and then Panini NFTs is the other one.
Oh, you got the Panini,
yeah, which is interesting, right? So I will just say like the sort of story behind that, and I actually do have one here, which is nice. I collect these Prism World Cup cards.
That's right.
They make the set. It's great. There's a sort of extra level of unintentional scarcity built in around the World Cup because the World Cup's only played every 4 years. The first set was 2014, so they have a 14, 18, and 22 set. Normally, the cards don't have that gold border on them and aren't shiny like that. They're just sort of like a matte silver. The gold version is limited to, I don't know if we can see it here, it's backwards, but 10 copies, right? So they make 10 copies of each gold version. And the gold version is, among card collectors, the gold prism is what it's called, is viewed as one of the most important parallels or color variations. And so I was like, for a number of reasons, I won't get into all the details, but I think these are a great buy in general of any player. So I went and they're across all 3 years. There are 801 of them, right? So there's 201 in 2014 and 300 in 2 other releases. And like I said, there's only 10 of each one made, so they're pretty hard to come by. But I am now up to, I think, 505 out of 801 across the 3 different releases. And so I'm putting a ton of money into that, and obviously
cornering that shit. I
totally. But then, so what made like a very obvious opportunity for me to play around in Panini NFTs was like they did a digital version of the Gold Prism set for 2022, and it was the first time they did one. And so I've been trying to get every single one of those as well, and I think I'm at like 220 out of 300. And I would say like that it is also showing me other benefits that I didn't really think of before as I've done this, because now I have something where I've collected both the physical and the digital of the exact same item, right? And so I really get to see what the differences are and how that works. And I will say, like, one of the things that I did not really think of before, but has been really, really helpful just from a collecting standpoint, is all of these are in a singular ecosystem when I'm buying the NFTs. They're in a singular ecosystem. And I don't know if card collectors or like people who don't collect cards would understand how important that is. But like, as I am trying to find these gold prisms, there are 20 to 30 sites that I will search regularly to try and find them. And even so, I know there are some that I'm missing, particularly internationally. There's Chinese card websites that are like, you can't even get a US account on, right? And so, and a lot of these do end up in China. And so it's like, for me to be like, oh, wow, like every single one that exists is in this ecosystem. I can just go and search it and it's there. Like, so it's the NFT set came out a month after the physical set, and I have 170 in the physical set and 220 in the digital set, right? So there's like something there of just like, well, it's easier to find them. It's much more organized. It's all consolidated into a singular space that I find as a collector to be very helpful.
Dude, how do you fund all this? I gotta ask you, where do you like? But do you buy and sell and trade? Like, do you do that actively? Okay, you do. Totally. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what your business model is, man. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I will say too, like if any financial advisor looked at my portfolio, they would just, they would keel over. I have a huge percentage of my net worth in what I would call little pictures of men, sort of jokingly, just these trading cards.
That's good. I've never heard that, because obviously we talk about JPEGs and on our end in the NFT space, right? And there's even a show called Overpriced JPEGs that is literally just, just like what JPEGs you're trading today. But I like little pictures of men is pretty good too.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's good to put things in perspective sometimes and poke fun at yourself. Yeah. And I will say I do also have some little pictures of women. I do collect women's soccer cards as well. So Little pictures
Somehow it's
little pictures of
somehow it's
people is more accurate.
creepy when you say little pictures of women.
Yeah,
Even though it's
that
the
does seem
same thing.
creepier, right? That does
There's
seem
something that's
creepier.
creepy about it, but when it's two dudes saying we have little pictures of men, it seems fine. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but anyways, this strange how that
But
works.
yeah, we
Let's move on. No,
digress.
don't add a joke. Yeah, let's just move on from that. Okay, so actually, this is good because I think maybe I'm gonna assume that maybe a lot of people are in the same place as me, where it's like, okay, NFTs, I got a handle on the NFT market now. I'm gonna mint some degen shit, whatever. We know what moves the market. We're kind of hanging out. And now I'm getting interested in other stuff. So I got to take this, like, kind of take this point of the podcast for you to kind of like educate me on what you think is kind of like the hottest areas of like collectible stuff. Because actually, first question for you: do you consider yourself an expert on this stuff at this point?
Certain categories for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which categories are you an expert in?
I would say definitely trading cards. That one,
Cards.
that one would be a no-brainer. Video games, I'm probably getting close on.
Okay.
And yeah, some of the other ones, I mean, comics, I'm pretty beginner. NFT, I know a little bit more than comics, but I'd probably rank it cards, video games, NFTs, comics.
Where was
Certainly,
Supreme?
I would
Supreme.
put. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Supreme.
Yeah, I'm like, there's so many you could sort of carve out. I'm even like, well, cards is different than sports memorabilia. I have a pretty darn good handle on sports memorabilia. I have a pretty darn good handle on ticket stubs in that market.
Yeah.
Supreme, I have a pretty, I would say I'm pretty expert in as well. So I don't know. It depends. It depends. There's so many categories, right? And if you balk one into sports, then you sort of lose well, then you lose Pokemon and you lose the non-sports cards, right? And so that's a whole other category too. So yeah, you tell me where you want to go from
Okay,
here.
I got to throw some at you. Okay, tell me about ticket stubs. What is the current state? Like, give me the too long didn't read of the ticket stub market right now.
The TLDR on ticket stubs is PSA recently, I don't even know, it's probably in the last 5 years or so, started grading ticket stubs, and it added this what collectors would call, and depending on what category they're in, either like a census or a population report, where you can see exactly how many of these things exist in their graded form, and it gives people a little bit more certainty in terms of just how many are out there and what's rare and what isn't. And the tickets that tend to be the most valuable, at least in the sports arena, are debuts of really big players. So you get like your Michael Jordan NBA debut, your Tom Brady NFL debut. Within soccer, it's like some of the tough ones to find. Like you can't find a Pele pro debut or a Johan Cruyff pro debut. Like they don't exist. And if
Like nobody has that.
Yeah, if someone happened to cross one of those, it would be like it could be like industry shifting for sure. But you would look at like your 1958 World Cup final for Pele, or maybe like his World Cup debut would be big tickets, or maybe
how would you? Would it even be possible to authenticate something like that?
Yeah, so I mean, PSA does it, and I haven't found that they've made. I have not personally seen really any mistakes. I mean, I'm sure there are some just naturally in every grading company. There's going to be some mistakes, and even if there were ones, it doesn't mean that they're going to come across my desk, so to speak, or I'm ever going to see them. Right. But there certainly is a level of trust with PSA in general that when they grade something, it's going to be legitimate. And yeah, I don't know. I have quite a few ticket stubs, but then it's like that's sports, right? So sports, you're going to be really big moments, like Messi winning the World Cup, for example. Now it's going to be a higher population ticket because a lot of people are going to have those, but it'll still be a valuable one. Soccer fans would know like Rene Higuita's scorpion kick, or when like Eric Cantona jumped in the stands and like kung fu kicked a fan from the opposing team. Like these moments that are really interesting.
What is your main sport? What sport do you know the most about?
Probably soccer, but obviously like Malice in the Palace is like a good example of a valuable ticket.
I was gonna, that's
or like Derek Jeter's flip, like all those things.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
those are all
stuff,
big tickets. So like big moments for sure, and then you're going to be looking mostly at debuts, and there's sort of a hierarchy of debuts. You have like your pro debut, and then certain sports will have like an international debut. You might have a team debut. So like Albert Pujols' first game with the Angels or whoever it is, right? Like it's going to be different than his rookie debut on the Cardinals. So that's sports. Now the thing is too, there's also like a whole category of non-sport tickets, and this is going to be things like various events. You'll have music, you'll have film and entertainment, you'll have conferences and things like that. So One of the ones that I enjoy is movie tickets. I think it's just sort of like a cool category, and grading like I don't really have a nostalgia around VHSs, and they're
Right.
pretty big and clunky and expensive to grade. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like just go poke around and try and find movie tickets, and it's
Right.
trying to find like there's even then there's like a hierarchy, right? There's like opening week versus opening day versus midnight premiere,
Yeah.
and you can sort of see how that would sort of like build itself out. And that's a very small market and one that I just sort of that's more of like a speculative market for me where I'm just like, hey, I'm just gonna buy like 50
Huh.
really nice things and sit on them and see if that market ever comes to be.
Dude, I like that.
But yeah,
I like that.
there's ones I'm looking for
Yeah.
too of like I want a Titanic ticket. Like I want a Titanic ticket. I want a ticket to Cincinnati Zoo the day Harambe died. Like
Yeah.
there's like tickets that I want that I'm like willing to go and pay quite a bit for.
That's amazing.
I've seen like Lincoln getting assassinated Ford theater tickets. Like one of those appeared like 10 years ago. Like there's some
Oh
really cool,
man.
interesting tickets if you really go
That's
deep and think
truly
about it.
collectible shit right there,
Yeah,
man. That is
yeah.
really, really collectible stuff.
I
Man,
put out
that's so
listen, I put out a
specific.
call. I put out a call for that. I was like, I will pay $3,000 for this. Like if anyone has one, like someone must know somebody. And someone who
Harambe or Lincoln?
Harambe, yeah. And someone hit me up is like, I do not have a ticket. I used to work there. I was the photographer of Harambe. And here's my shirt. Here's like my pay stubs, but they took all my credentials because we had a dispute over the video and photo that I had of the incident. And I'm like, dude, no way. I gotta hit that guy up again and be like, do you have any friends that like that didn't get fired from there that like would happen to still have a badge or a pass or something? Because that's like,
Yeah, you need like the guest registry, or like you got to hack into like the credit card records of who
yeah,
paid for
something,
tickets that
something.
day. Look
And it's,
every name
I will
up.
add too, like
Yeah,
in tickets, there's another hierarchy of like you have your ticket stub, right? Which is
right,
like that's been like like torn on the perforation. You have your full ticket,
right,
and then you
right.
also sometimes have like a season pass, and like a pass is going to be worth less than a stub is going to be worth less than the
Yeah,
full thing. Yeah.
got it. Okay, man, I love that. I saw Titanic in theaters. That's to age myself.
Well,
I wasn't.
I want
It was
one.
not. It
I
was an
want the
opening
boat.
weekend.
I want the
You want
boat.
the
I want the
you want
boat
the
ticket.
oh you want
Yeah,
the I thought you meant the
yeah.
movie. I
Well,
don't know why I thought
I had
because
a
we're talking about
couple. Yeah, I
movies.
had a couple of the
That
film.
makes way more
Um,
sense.
I
That
had a
makes way
couple.
more
I
sense.
had a couple of the film, but could never find like they were all like a month or two out from release, and they just weren't that
Got it.
exciting. If I
Right.
could find an opening night one or a midnight premiere one, I would totally scoop that up.
Man, I never even thought of any of that kind of shit, man. That is so good. I thought it was cool once when I saved all my stubs from getting on airplanes for a year.
Hey, I
But
do that. I do
that's
that too. Every ticket I save.
you never know what. No, actually, no, you're saying. Anyways, okay, cool. That's okay. Ticket stubs. That's fucking awesome. It's great to learn. Uh, tell me about video games. Tell me what's new in the video game. What's hot in video game collectible scene.
Yeah, so video games is one that I really, really like and enjoy. And I think with video
Okay, tell
games,
us.
there's
For
just
anybody who's sorry, hold on. For anybody who's listening to this on audio, Eric's entire background on the call is, I guess, are those mainly GameCube games?
mostly GameCube. Yeah, a lot of
GameCube.
first
Okay.
gen disc consoles, PS1, PS2,
Okay.
Xbox 360. But that's sort of
Got it.
my video game heyday.
Okay.
There is a certain nostalgia around video games that exists with almost nothing else, and I think it's a nostalgia that
Right.
if enough collectors realize what's happening in the video game space could go sort of absolutely bonkers. Just truthfully, on the sealed side of video games, particularly games PS2, Xbox 360, and older, the sealed supply is very minimal. Very, very minimal. You'd be really surprised. And you can go in. So one of the really big advancements in video games is there's a company that's now owned by Collectors Holding, which is the same company that owns PSA, PCGS, Golden, companies like that, that owns this company called WADA, a relatively new company that grades video games,
Yeah.
who's done a really great job of some of the marketing and is very, very reputable and appreciated in the space. And so once they started grading, right now they recently they're still like working through all the population reports for all the different consoles, but like I think they're up to PS3 and they have GameCube now, and so like everything older than that they have listed on
Right.
their site. But certainly like one of the things that wouldn't be super obvious about video games is some of them have a ton of variants. And so, like,
Yeah.
certain
I
games will
remember
have
that.
7, 10,
Yeah.
12 variations between, different release times and your greatest hits versions and your versions that are like the Best Buy
Yeah.
exclusive or like whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? So
I remember
those
that.
can
Yeah.
very quickly add up. So I think right now what they're doing is probably like for the consoles they haven't released population reports for yet, they're going through and cataloging and making sure they have it all right, and then they'll go and put it out and publicly, give all that data out. But so what's happening is like in a lot of these games, like I think they've graded in the vicinity of 100,000 games ever.
Okay.
Which, if you look at cards, for example, PSA grades about a million items a month. So that gives you just some sort of context on like how big that graded video game market is, and certainly like the
Yeah.
market of people who play video games is enormous.
Yeah.
That is a huge, huge, huge market. Like
It's
when
more than people that collect cards, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
who play video games is bigger than people who collect cards for
Yeah.
sure.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So like I would say, whenever I have friends over, I can be like, "Yo, look at this like really rare whatever trading card," and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's cool." And then they
Yeah.
like
And
come
then
over
you
to this
show
wall and
up.
they're like, "Oh, I played
Yeah.
Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. That's crazy." Right?
Yeah.
So like there's that to me is very interesting. Like the sort of intuitive nature of it, I think is really really nice. And the way the grading scale works is very similar to comics. It is a zero point 0.5 scale from zero point 0.5 all the way up to 9. So you have
Right.
0.51, 1.52. It's really rare that things are getting like less than a 6, honestly. It almost doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, like 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9. Then at 9, it goes to zero point 0.2 intervals. So then you have a 9.2, 9.4, 9.6, 9.8, and a 10.0. The 10.0 is sort of like, I would compare it probably like a CGC 10 or a BGS 10 Black Label. It like almost never happens. So generally speaking, like 9.8 is going to be about the best you can hope for on a game. And then outside of that, that's grading just the game itself. There's a separate rating for the seal. So the seal rating is on a like a letter scale, similar to how like grades in school would work. The only difference is the highest grade is not an A plus. There's an A plus plus is the
Right.
highest grade there. So typically, the highest grade you can pretty much hope for in general is a 9.8 A plus plus. Those 10.0s like almost never happen. They've probably given out like 30 of them in the history of the company. But yeah, that's how the grading scale works. But one of the things that is really interesting about it is they grade CIB as well, which is complete in box. And I certainly think we could get to a point where it's like CIB has some pretty decent value in various grades, but the
Right.
sealed stuff is so incredibly rare. And I think about these IPs and how important and valuable they are, like just in the world in general, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know exactly which of these games you would have played, but games for me like SSX, like SSX Tricky in those games, and the Super Monkey Balls, and like these are games where it's like there's like 2, 3 graded copies out there, and like you go to eBay, like you can't find a sealed copy, and if you do, like it might be a PAL version, which like the PAL version games just aren't worth much, and so to me, it's like there's a storm brewing in video games to me, and I think like just the nostalgia, the IP, the trustworthiness, the supply. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, and you can see like there have been some games to fetch like $2 million,
Right.
like older NES games. Now, like I'm someone who's like, well, I didn't play NES, I didn't play N64, so like I gotta like
Yeah.
I totally respect and appreciate those, but I gravitate towards the games that I played, which is like
You
GameCube,
played.
PS2, Xbox,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I guess this is also an interesting way to look at it is how many people are going to have played which games, right? Because if you're talking like original as an NES games, like the reach of the original NES is far smaller than like a PS2 or a PS3, right? In terms of just sheer volume.
yeah, and I
But
think
is
like
that how you could approach it?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a combination of like the importance of the game, the importance of the IP, the
Yeah.
number of people that played it, the supply that's out there, the different variations that exist. There's this whole concoction of like of data that goes into if you were going to try to create a singular formula that outputs value of a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
But I would say, there are games that like you would think there's just thousands of sealed copies, and like there aren't. Like a first
aren't.
print Zelda for NES, I think there's two. Like,
Yeah, there must
like
be.
which is
Yeah.
crazy, right? Like you think about how important that game is and how important that franchise is, right? And it'd be like there's two of these,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that that
Well, there
tells
was
me
no
that
reason
there's
to
a
keep
storm
them
brewing.
sealed.
Exactly.
I mean, but even like cards, historic, even like because so I played Super Nintendo. I'll tell you what I had. I had Super Nintendo, N64, and original Game Boy were like the main things that I played the most. And it's like by that point, there's no reason to keep your games sealed. That's stupid. You play them. Versus even at that point, cards were a thing where it's like maybe you should keep that pack sealed. That already was a thing to do at the time, even though there's not really internet. But games was like, no, you have the game to play it. Like you can't convince your 12-year-old that you just gave freaking GoldenEye to not open it. Like
Yeah, totally.
that makes no fucking sense, right? Like there's no reason for that to ever be a thing. But I definitely had the gold cartridge of GoldenEye and of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I bought Pokemon the date came out in North America, Pokemon Red.
Yeah.
and played it like a
Well,
fiend.
those would all be, if
And
you had kept
yeah,
those sealed, you'd be on an island right now. You
there's
wouldn't be
no,
doing this
I wouldn't.
podcast with me.
I wouldn't, but you know what? But the life experience I got playing out of those, the things I learned in GoldenEye, Eric, I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade for the sealed pack of
Yeah, well,
GoldenEye
that's like,
today.
this takes me to something that I often like to think about, which is
Yeah.
if you could go back like a decade to any Target, Walmart, Kmart, whatever, any of those random retail stores, if you could go back a decade or more, you could buy things that would make you rich today. And that's true of any point in history 10 years or prior, like a decade ago
Fantastic
or
point.
prior.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I sit in these Walmarts and Targets today, and I'm going through the toy section and the video game section and the card section, and like what's the thing that I'm going to look back and there's something here that will
There's
make you
something
rich.
here.
History would
Yeah.
say there is something there that would make you rich. And what is it? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't really know what it is, but there was a time when I was like, the card shelves are empty. They're empty, right? Like you can't find a pack of like Disney's Frozen on the stinking shelves.
No.
And so like,
Dude, it's yeah.
but then it's like, so like, I'm like, soccer cards are just like toast. They're gone. And then I go to the video game section and Kylian Mbappe's first FIFA cover, there's 20 of them sitting there sealed. Right.
Yeah,
And you're like,
nobody cares. Yeah.
it's just interesting. And that it might not work out that way. I do think, in general, PS4, PS5, probably going to be higher pop and people are starting to realize they should keep some sealed, but it makes you think, right? It makes you wonder what's that thing that's there today that's going to be valuable in a decade.
Well, it might be stuff that isn't hot yet, right?
Exactly.
Like that's also how collectibles work, or even how culture works. It's like some shit isn't. I would think about like movies. About some movies took decades to become the cult film they were, right? And that it doesn't necessarily work that way. So yeah, that's a really interesting experiment. And I think I'm going to think about it next time I go to Walmart. I think everybody else should. It's just like what
could it be?
Like what $5 shit item? What's in the DVD bin or Blu-ray bin of those? 3 for $10. That's in the middle of the electronic section that could be worth something someday.
I'm
All these
I'm
weird
very
movies.
enamored by music too. That seems like there's no company that really grades music, right? Like whether it's CDs or vinyls or cassette tapes, like it
Cassettes, yeah.
seems like there's probably like if and when that happens, it could be a pretty big deal. But it's I'm kind of like I try to mostly buy things that I know are gonna be like more important in the somewhat near future. So you'll see like I have a stack of like 100 PC games in my closet because I'm like it's only a matter of time until WATA grades PC games, right? Like
Someone's
it's gonna
gonna wanna do
happen.
that.
So. But music seems way further out. But like people grading iPods and iPhones and all that stuff like should happen. Someone should do it. Yeah.
What about books? Is that a thing? Because they're not ever really wrapped, but is that something that could matter?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly books that have sold for millions of dollars.
Right.
And I wouldn't know titles and stuff off the top of my head. I do know
Yeah.
the original first edition Harry Potter books are pretty popular and can
Right.
fetch a pretty substantial
Of
sum.
course. Yeah.
But yeah, books like there's certainly a chance on books. It's going to be mostly first edition of big IPs, but
Yeah.
books.
Well, books is
are
something that
real.
has books have so many different runs, right? Like books from 200 years ago are still being printed today,
Yep.
but having those original prints is like so valuable. I would imagine is so valuable if it's in good
Yeah,
if you
but
can get it graded.
there's
in
not
good
any
condition.
book grading company that I'm aware of.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah, so
Maybe that's a business idea, man. It's just to create a grading company. Forget you're trying to start a card company. Start a grading company that
Look, I've
grades all
thought
this
it-
obscure
I-
shit.
I
Be the
was-
market maker.
yeah, I'll say I've thought deeply about all this stuff. So we'll see what happens
Listen,
in the next
man,
couple of years.
Once Amazon's got the drone network, it'd be so easy to get books back and forth and everything. The transit will be way easier once it's all
The
like
drone will
e-drones.
just be delivering books for me to grade. That's what my future holds.
Okay. What is the strangest thing that there's a market for?
Presidential hair is weird.
That's so good. Obama's hair, like he always like kind of shaved, kind of buzz cutted his hair.
Yeah, I don't know.
hair,
You're gonna
or
get like,
it was
a little
yeah.
stub.
Yeah, you're gonna stub. There's not even much hair. That's not fair. Yeah.
What else is weird? There's some pretty suspect comic art, I'll say. I've learned over the last few weeks,
my
and
God.
some of which sells for a pretty substantial amount of money.
Okay.
What other weird markets? I know we once at Golden had Ty Cobb's dentures. That was an odd one for sure. And then there was I think a dispute over who actually owned them, and we had to give them back. But we had filmed all this
Right.
content around it, and then we had to pull it last minute.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah, so
That
I mean,
is so
I don't know
hilarious.
anything there's a lot of very odd celebrity associated stuff for sure.
Right.
And there are definitely people that there's probably I'm sure there's like serial killer collectors and stuff like that. So you know, it's
Serial killer.
yeah,
What
like
do you,
there's like
like
Jeffrey Dahmer trading cards and stuff, right? Like that stuff exists.
trading cards?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, there's people that collect memorabilia from just about any event that
You
you can
know,
imagine. Yeah. And it's like
yeah,
there's people that collect like slavery memorabilia. Like
right.
that's a
Yeah.
huge category.
It's a huge event in history, in like recent history, in a
Yeah.
sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, in not ancient history, recent history. So that makes sense.
Yeah,
You know,
for
what's
sure.
interesting hearing you talk though is that, like, I think I got to bring this all. I got to bring this all the way back to NFTs, Eric. Is that like even I'm laughing at presidential hair. One of the hottest collections this week is feet pics. I don't know if you saw that. We're recording this on Friday the 13th. Woo. But I don't know if you saw that. But like one of the hottest things is like literally pixelated pictures of feet, and they're
Well, I will
trading.
thank
They were,
the
yeah,
I'll thank the
yeah.
algo for not putting that one on my radar, I guess. But
Oh, well,
I was unaware of this.
we tweeted from the first mint earlier. These were like free just after Christmas. These minted for free, I think. And right now they're up to like 0.18 ETH or something, or point 0.2. So it's about like 300-400 bucks. And they've literally now the floor price has surpassed a Series 1 LeBron James moment on Top Shot. Like and we put out a tweet about it, be like, what would you rather spend $200 on? The first, like some of the first mints of LeBron on Top Shot or feet pics? And the tweet got blown away by the feet people. The feet people came for us and nuked the comments with saying they wanted that it should be feet. So,
Yeah.
you know, if anything sounds weird to anybody listening about what Eric's saying, people collect, listen, we're in the NFT space. It's literally like memes on steroids monetized. And that's kind of the scene. So I think again, I'm just going to say that I think like the NFT scene is prime for like really weird, obscure collectible shit. You can move
Yeah.
so much faster, even though you don't ever get to hold
Well, and
the, you know,
it's so
hair.
driven by social media, and so if you can find things
Yeah.
that are like really interesting on social and perform well, and
Yeah.
if you can have a project where whenever people posting their NFT, like it's getting 20 retweets and 150 likes, like well, that's just going to get shared, right? So if your project can naturally perform positively in any of these social algos, like
Yeah.
that's a huge win, right? And so I think that's like accentuates. It's like a funny, like sophisticated way to say this. Accentuates the memification of NFT culture.
Dude, absolutely, man. One of the hottest collections also the past month is literally called The Memes by Punk56529. That's been this hot art derivative collection. Okay, starting 2023, where are you? You've got your, I don't know how you organize your finances of like, here's how much money I'm going to spend buying stuff. Where are you allocating money this year? What are you buying?
I am very keen on trying to complete these gold sets. That's a
Okay,
huge,
so you're the gold
hugely
set, the
important
Prism
thing
gold
for
set.
me.
That's your thing. Yeah.
But I'm not going to be able to complete it this year. Like it's not going to happen this year for sure. It might take 5 years. It might never happen. That's how rare and hard some of these things are to find.
Got it.
But I think like probably the first Jan, Feb, March, I'll probably still be spending a lot on those because the 2022 ones are still appearing somewhat regularly. But after that, I certainly would like to have some funds aside for video games. I'd certainly like to have some funds aside to like, I'll say like I would love to buy a Chromie Squiggle. Like I would love to buy one.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what is your like if there's anything in the NFT space that's caught your eye.
Yeah, and like that's truthfully once like I don't even know a ton about that. I know it's like what is it, the first generative art project, which I, as a collector of physical things, firsts are generally thought of as very important, and so I understand that. And I just sort of aesthetically like that one, just in the same way that like Bored Apes like aesthetically really dislike. You know, it's just sometimes you just have one. So you have one that like you really like and one that you really gravitate towards, and just different tastes and opinions. There's not a right or wrong answer. Just that one I just think is cool, and I just like it, and I like the art.
It's okay, man. Listen, we were covering NFTs 24/7 when Apes came out, and I thought they were fucking stupid. And I was like, my brother was like, should I buy these when they were like $30? I was like, no, it's dumb. It'll be gone in 2 weeks. That was a famous line. I said they wouldn't be around in 2 weeks. So, and it maybe was based on the art or feelings that you're saying now. So listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Squiggle, a very interesting thing. Outside of, actually, tell us a little bit more about the work you did with So Rare. I guess you were just kind of like helping to promote, get the word out. When they
So I
launched
have a paid partnership with So Rare, but
Cool.
certainly was approached by various different NFT projects, and probably talked to quite a few.
Right.
Some that I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm worried about promoting this. Somewhere I'm like, I would be thrilled to promote this. This is cool. Like, I understand why this could be a big deal. But ultimately, So Rare was the one that I was the most excited about, and the one that I believe the most in. And I think people can be confused sometimes if like, you're just paid to like say, whatever. It's like, I did my due diligence. I looked at many of these. This was the one that I found to be the most interesting, the most exciting, the one that I thought had the best, brightest future and the highest likelihood of achieving that. So, but So Rare's been great.
And they are emphasizing, especially for, I think it's for MLB and for soccer stuff, they are emphasizing collectability this year, right? So very curious to see how that turns out for them.
It is very interesting. Like in their set around the World Cup, there was a grouping of cards that like aren't used in the game at all, which is interesting. Like to me, as a collector first, that's very, very interesting, right? Like I'm like, okay, well, geez, now do I have to go buy all these? Like I might have to do it. Like I want to. I've been thinking about it. So yeah, and I think they strike a really nice balance of utility there. Like it's sometimes I think like people try to go over the top with utility. Like we're gonna send you T-shirts and like put you in games and like do these things. And right. That's sort of how I feel about it. And I think sometimes that like cheapens the whole experience. So I think they've struck a really nice balance there. And I will say like I lovingly refer to it as a gateway project. Like as someone who's been in cards, like I can come into So Rare and be like in 10 minutes, be like, I get this. This makes sense. Like, do I understand everything about it? No, but like the parallels are like very intuitive. Like your uniques, your rares, your super rares, your limiteds. Like, and that's like a card collector will know like parallels and how that works and what that means and how the prices operate around that. And there's not this ambiguity around which one's the most valuable either, right? Like if you're looking at a singular player. If you're looking at a singular player in cards, it's like interesting in cards. I always say it's better to have the right card of the wrong player than the wrong card of the right player. Like you get the player entirely right and buy the wrong card and still get crushed, right? And so like I think one of the things that's really nice about So Rare is the fact like if you get the player right there, like you know exactly what card, like the unique is better than the super rare, it's better than the rare, it's better than the limited. It's not like in cards, it's like like Topps Finest made a big run, Topps Chrome Sapphire made a big run. It's like okay, what's going to be the next big set, right? And like you don't ever really know how that's going to pan out. Some are like solidified as all time greats, but some too like over the years have a different level of appreciation, right? And so like within So Rare, you don't have to worry about that, which is one element that I do find to be very, very nice.
Nice. Okay. We only have you for a couple more minutes. Usually at the end of these podcasts, Eric, we play a game called Would You Rather, where I give our guests two options to tell me which would you rather. But we're not going to play that today. We're going to play a game we've never done, where you are going to rate and, if you want, price things that I have recently acquired. Okay, and I literally just thought about this while we were playing because I have a bunch of just random shit that I haven't even sorted through. So I'm just gonna show you stuff, and then you tell me how much you think that's worth, or what. Tell me like I don't know what. It's kind of like Price is Right or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get it.
Let's see.
Okay.
So I guess we got physical things.
I recently bought this, ordered it. This is a Marvel Lego Thanos gauntlet. Are you familiar with this product?
I have seen the Star Wars versions of these, yeah.
Okay.
So
I don't know.
Lego's going to be one that's tougher for me to price out.
Sealed.
Not sealed. Okay, that's good to know. I will say like
hold on. I mean the stuff like the actual pieces are sealed. Okay. That's sealed.
And I assume you're buying this off of a secondary marketplace. This is not like you didn't buy this from like Kmart or Walmart or like something.
No,
like
this is on Amazon, and here's a little booklet. Here's me. There's me gonna put it together later.
So I would
assume knew the demographic.
It's
hard.
Like
slightly overweight white guy in his 30s. They're like, this is the nerd who's buying this.
That's funny. I just did like my first Lego set in a long time. I just did like.
You got show me.
Because Legos are like the world's biggest collectible category. Dare I say it?
Oh yeah.
Like I did a little RV. Like with my fiance, I was like, it was like $15 on sale. I was like, I'll just get one and do one. And we did. It was pretty
Congratulations,
fun.
fiance. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
thanks.
That's great. Yeah, okay, so this in this state, how much? Okay, how much you buying this? What's your offer? It's like Dragon's Den. Forget, it's like a Dragon's Den game. How much of this do you want?
Well, I would let me. I'll guess the price, and then once you tell me the actual price, I'll give you a rating on how good of a purchase it was. How about that?
I bought it for $99 Canadian.
I was going to guess 100.
Sorry,
you stole from me. I was going to guess 100 on that. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you were guessing. Okay.
Because I know those retail around like 30 to 50. but that's probably a sold out one, but it's not sealed. So that's how I was getting to around that number.
I FOMO'd into it. Somebody messaged me about it on Discord, and I was like, yeah, I need that. You know,
Yeah.
it was around my birthday, so I was like, I'm just gonna happy birthday to myself. So
I'll go with like the WADA scale to grade you. I'll give that like a 9.0 A+.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that seems really high for what it is.
I just Legos make a ton of sense to me, and I think
Right.
a Lego, like, does DCA grade Legos? I think they do, or not DCA. Who would it be? One of those VGA companies. They have like a million different subsidiaries. Someone grades. Maybe it's AFA, Action Figure Authority. I think they grade minifigures. I like minifigures more than full sets for investment purposes.
Next up, this is an NFT item. I have a never opened Mutant Apes T-shirt.
Give me some more context here. Is this like from a certain event or?
So Bored Apes, like maybe once or twice a year, will do a like a merch drop that you can only buy if you own an ape. So it's token gated. Sometimes now they'll sell it with their coin. They haven't done one honestly in a super long time. Sometimes at events they have very exclusive stuff. So I can't tell you supply. I'd say total there's probably less than 100,000 merch items of Bored Apes out there. I can't. Some people probably ordered a fuck ton to stash, Supreme style.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that this is pretty specific to it. I've never looked on like StockX or on eBay as to how much these might be worth.
So did you actually buy this through the original merch
I did
drop?
buy it. I bought it. Yeah.
I would guess you probably paid in like the $60 range, and I would guess they're probably worth 2 to 3x that.
Okay. Cool. Great.
What is it actually?
The best game ever. I have no idea. I don't know. I've never.
But you
looked.
bought it. How much did it cost?
I don't remember.
Why? My guess
was
was
$30 maybe. It wasn't that. It was reasonable. Their t-shirts
30?
were like.
All right. Well, while you
go,
have I pulled up another tab here, and
okay. Yeah, you tell
I'm gonna
me.
Find out.
This is awesome. This is like a TV show. This is like.
I don't think they even have them on StockX. Okay, let me go to eBay.
This is like antique roadshow style right here. Okay.
Bored Ape T-shirt. Oh man, it's gonna be like. Does that shirt have a name?
No. There's literally no name. It's just the mutant shirt.
Oh man, there's so many that look really similar.
There's so many.
Yeah, I can't tell what's
it less.
Well, there's a lot that looks similar, and I can't tell what's like just looking at these eBay like regular old photos. I can't tell what's a real one and what's not. Like I have to click into. Let me go to sold, price at highest.
Dude, man, I'm gonna send you so many DMs of whenever I buy anything now. Look at this.
The only one of yours that I see looks like. I think this one's yours. Looks like 175.
What?
So that's in the 2 to 3x range of.
Oh
yeah. It's in the 2 to 3x range of 60. Okay, what else do you got here? Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, this. Okay, I don't know if you're familiar with Hero HRO from DC. These are cards that you scan, and they give you the NFT of the card. This is their first run. Chapter 1, it was the Batman, the Matt Reeves Batman.
Does every card give you an NFT?
Yes.
And they must all have unique like QRs on them.
They do.
Yeah.
I'll show you some of the ones I had a bunch.
Is that a sealed box, or did you open it?
It's sealed. It is sealed. This is a sealed box. This is what they look like. Some are the cards are not, I would say, probably not the highest quality. I'll tell you right now, we've been partnered with them in the past as well. And yeah, this is what the QR code looks like on the back. So you scan it with their app, and it gives you the NFT instantly. Most cards are worth $1 on the marketplace. There's a few legendaries that go for a couple $100 that are in those packs.
How many packs in that box? How many cards per pack?
There are 58 cards inside.
Okay.
Eight packs. So some, I guess, would have.
I was gonna say, yeah. How do they get to that? It's not divisible.
Have a few extras.
Maybe you get like two singles wrapped in cellophane on the inside or something.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I've opened other boxes. Yeah.
I would say, probably in the $100 range on that.
Okay, $100 range.
Okay. So what did you pay for it?
I ordered a bunch. When they were selling them, and kind of just kept them and then opened a bunch of them.
Oh yeah.
You know, just because we were partnered with the project, and I thought the project was super freaking cool, so I was like, I just give me some of them, and yeah. So I think originally they were selling those boxes for like $30 or $40, maybe.
I think they're probably. I
Selling
mean,
those
I
up.
would think they're probably sold out.
Okay, comic guy. I recently bought this in the U.S. This copy, it's stickered in, but I don't know how much that means. This winter 1988 copy of Heavy Metal magazine. Are you familiar with Heavy Metal?
Is it issue number 1?
No. I paid $5 for it.
Okay, yeah, comics. It's like I don't know. It's like I know in general like some of the things that drive price, but if you were going to show me a random comic, it'd be hard for me to price.
Okay, last thing, and this is a pretty wild one. I'm sure a lot of people in the same boat. So there's a company. Oh God, okay. There's a company called Pixel Vault.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with them. They made NFT comics. They shipped physical pieces of the comics. They sent it to you in like a case. They have a bunch of different collections. They have a lot of different partnerships. One of their big partnerships was about a year ago. They partnered with Adidas and airdropped to everybody who owns some of their collection an Adidas NFT. And if you held it long enough, you got shipped this neon tracksuit from Adidas, limited run Adidas tracksuit from Pixel Vault. I paid nothing for it. The shipping was free and everything was free for holding the NFT, and it also came.
How much did the NFT cost?
Orange beanie. The NFT was also free to claim.
Interesting.
But for a long time held a floor of about an ETH and a bit when ETH was like $3,000 or $4,000, and now it's down to like 0.4 or something because the utility is kind of done. But a size large, good average size. There's actual. They actually had to put the value of it. So the
the
pants
retail
are
price.
70. The retail price and the jacket is 80.
Yeah. Well, I gotta imagine those go for at least double what the retail price says. So I probably,
Nice.
I don't know. I would guess on that sealed tracksuit. I don't know how appreciated Pixel Vault is right now. I'm not super familiar with it, so I'd guess three to 500 if you maybe.
They got a bit of a hold to dig out of, but supply hole, but not of these. If you were me, would you open this and wear it and walk around?
I don't know. You hurting for the money? Or do you like the suit? Or no? I don't know.
I don't know. I've never had something like this, man. I've never had this.
It's very highlight. It's very highlighter yellow. I would be inclined to probably not wear them at the same time.
I honestly never even thought about only wearing one or the other. It's like to me it's a one piece.
Like those pants with the black tee would be nice.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could wear it. Maybe if
And
I
like
don't want to, I'll
pair
wear
of,
that.
a pair of Sambas or something.
What are Sambas?
Sambas, they're like a classic Adidas sneaker.
Oh, sorry.
Very
It's not me.
Football soccer culture Adidas sneaker.
Okay. Yeah. See, you're so much deeper in that than I am. All right, Eric. Not going to keep you longer, dude. Thank you so much for the evaluation of my strange collectible NFT items. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. It's fun.
Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Of course. Anytime. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.